Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is William Worley, and today I'm going to be showing you a quick demonstration on how to enhance the colors inside of Photoshop. So what we have in here inside of Adobe Photoshop is that we got a picture of a forest, and it looks like it's just kind of like at a sunset or a dusk setting. So what I'm going to go ahead and do and get started is that I'm going to go ahead and right click on our background layer and choose duplicate, and this will make a copy of our background layer. And then I'm going to go ahead and go up to filter and then camera raw filter. Now when you bring up camera raw filter inside of Photoshop, you're going to start off with some basic settings here. So the first thing I want to go ahead and do is brighten up the dark areas or the shadows inside of this photograph, just so that I can see some more of the detail within the picture. I'd say right about maybe around 80 looks pretty good. You don't want to go like over the top of otherwise, it's going to leave your photograph a little overexposed, and then you're going to start to lose detail. And then I want to go ahead and take the highlights and I want to drag them to the left some, just so that some of the brighter areas within the photograph are not so blown out. Now this is helping us see the leaves within the background a lot better. So right around 60 probably looks good here. And I'm just going to add some contrast to it as well, just because when we adjust the highlights and the shadows a little bit, we kind of started to lose a little detail. And we got some artifacts within the photograph, and we don't really want that. So that's starting to look a little better there. And now I'm going to go ahead and adjust my white and my black sliders. And what I like to normally do when I'm adjusting these two sliders is that I like to hold down the Alt or the Option key, and then left click on the slider and then drag it to the right a little bit, just until we can start to see some clipping within the photograph. So I just want to slide it back a little bit just before the clipping comes up. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same for the blacks as well. Say right about there looks pretty good. And I just want to go ahead and do a quick before and after peek here. There's the before and there's the after. So we're off to a pretty good start here. Now I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here to the dehaze panel here. And I'm just going to slowly drag it to the right here. This is just going to get rid of some of the haziness within the photograph here. Add more contrast. So that looks much better right there too. It starts to make the photograph a little more clear there, and we can see some more of the leaves and the colors in there. And now I'm going to go ahead and move over to the tone curve as well. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is adjust these sliders here. That's going to affect the bar here or the line within the tone curve. And it's very similar to like what we did in the basic settings here, where we're adjusting the highlights, the shadows, the whites, and the blacks. This is just a little bit more in-depth to give us more results. So if I just go ahead and take our sliders there. There you go, just a minor little change here. And now I'm going to move on to the detail, and this is where we get into the noise reduction and the sharpening. And now I'm just going to bring the noise reduction up just a little bit. Most of the time when I'm adjusting the noise reduction in a photograph, I don't like to go more than 10 pixels, just because it's going to lose some of the artifacts and the detail within the photograph. And now to enhance the sharpening, the first thing I'm going to start is with the radius, then the detail, and the masking. And so to start with the radius, I'm going to hold down the Alt or the Option key, left click, and I'm going to drag it to the right. This is just going to show me what areas are being affected and how much they're being affected. And the same for the detail as well. We don't want it to be like too crisp, because if it's too crisp, then the picture is just going to look blotchy, you know, and just not that great. Masking, as I hold down the Alt or Option key and drag to the right here, we're going to see that the areas that are highlighted in white here, that shows what areas are going to be sharpened when we adjust the sharpening amount. There we go. I don't want to go too overbroad here, because if I seems like if I go past 30 here, it's going to look a little too crisp. So I think that looks pretty good there. And now we're going to move on to the fun part, and that's where we're going to give the colors more of a boost and definition, and that's where we'll do our magic in the HSL adjustments panel. And to kind of help me out here, I like to take this little tool here. This is the targeted adjustment tool here. When I use this tool here, I can click on an area anywhere within the photograph and then drag it to the left or right. Now I'm on the saturation setting, so I'll go ahead and start with the leaves here. I'm going to click on the leaves, and then I'm just going to start dragging to the right here, and it's really boosting the colors on the leaves there. That's looking a lot better. And I might kind of do that with the grass a little bit here too. Alrighty, that's starting to look really nice here. Maybe I can do that with some of the leaves down here as well on the ground. I don't think purple and magenta is a good look for the leaves on the ground here, so I'm going to go over to the hue, and then I'm just going to go ahead and change the color on those a little bit as well. Now it's starting to look a little more reddish. I'm going to take the purple here and maybe drag that to the left as well, just so that it's more blue instead of purplish. And then I might play around with the luminance. This tells us like how bright or how dark we want the colors to be. Alright, so far this is looking really good, really good. Next I'm going to go over into the split toning. This is just if you want to add some color into the highlights, into the shadows. And sometimes what I like to do with my photographs is that I like to add a little bit of a teal and orange kind of look here. So I'm going to go ahead and take the hue slider over in the highlights and then just kind of slide that to the right. Just until you can see in the saturation bar that the color starts to turn orange a little bit. Right there probably looks good. And I'm going to go over the shadows, do the same thing with the hue there. I'm just going to drag it to the right here until I get like a little bit of a tealish look here in the saturation bar. And now I'm going to go ahead and drag the saturation slider to the left just a little bit. And then I'm going to do the same with the saturation and the shadows as well. And if you kind of want to balance between the two, like have more highlight color than you do with shadow color, you can do that with this balance slider here. And now I'm going to go over to the effects panel here, and I'm just going to go ahead and add a vignette around the edges. So I'm going to take the amount bar here and drag it to the left here. That's going to start darkening the edges. Oh, that's pretty good there. And then lastly, I'm going to move over to the calibration settings here, and I'm just going to adjust these sliders to give it a final touch here. Alright, and that looks pretty outstanding to me. Here's the before, and then here's the after. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Please be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more tutorials.